Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. We're just waiting for John to jump on. Hi, Amy. John should be jumping on here in a few minutes. Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. We're just waiting for John to jump on, but he should be on shortly.
All right.
Hi, John. Oh, I can't hear you.
Yeah, hi, Money. I can only see you and hear you. I can't hear or see anything else.
Okay, yeah, I can't hear John. I still can't hear you. We can't hear you on our side. No, you're not muted. Still nothing. Sorry, guys.
Hi,
Sorry, I was looking on there. That's not your wife.
no, that's
Sorry, y'all were working.
Mm-mm. Maybe try like taking out your headphones. Mm-mm. Hmm. Sorry, guys. I don't really know what's going on. But we'll get it figured out.
myself. And at one point, I said, "What's next? Do I just have to go and hire an army to get this to go beyond where I need to be?" And I tried that.
Hello,
Hi, yay, we can hear you.
you can hear me. I'm
Yes,
so sorry. My laptop wasn't working and then I went to the desktop up here. So now I'm on my phone.
that's okay.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yay!
Yes.
I am so sorry, everybody. Not sure what happened with my laptop. We do family Zooms fairly frequently on that, but something was going on with the audio. I could see and hear you guys, but you couldn't hear me apparently.
Well, I'm glad
So
that it
without
is working out.
Yes, so without wasting anybody's time further, because I'm already running late, I apologize. Thank you to Authreen and Amani for having me this morning. And I understand we're to talk about working with investors this morning.
Yes, definitely.
So working with investors, the first question I always ask when I have an investor lead is what are they trying to accomplish? What is their goal by investing in real estate? And generally, of course, the generic answer is to make money. we all know that, but it's there's different ways you can go about that within real estate. Does anybody know the formula that you'd want to work with to determine when you're looking at an opportunity to see if it's worthwhile? Anybody have any feedback on that? No?
Nope.
All right. It's called an ROI, return on investment. So that's a real important factor to consider when you're looking at an opportunity, is the ROI, return on investment. And there's several different ways depending on the type of investment that you're looking at as to how you plug things into an ROI formula. So if you get to that point, then I would just Google return on investment formulas for real estate. And when you Google that, you'll see multiple links that can kind of advise you on the circumstance of the formula. The simplest one would be like a flip scenario where you buy something, fix it up, hold it for a short period of time, and then sell it. And then that formula is just really easy. But doing rental long-term investment properties, the formula is a little more involved because you have more details. With the original scenario, buying and flipping, it's basically what it cost you to buy it, what'd you put into it, and then what'd you sell it for, and give you an idea of what your return on investment is with that. When you get into long-term rentals as a scenario, then more factors come in being involved with that, with maintenance and vacancy rates. And of course, you have overhead taxes and insurance, mortgages, things along that lines. So when I talk with that investor for the first time, I'm looking to see what their goals are. Anybody have any feedback on things that you might be interested in talking about first on what a goal would be? To any of you working with investors now or doing investing personally?
Nope. Not at this point.
No? Okay, gotcha. Well, let's look at the option to possibly buy something and to flip that particular property. So some things I'd be looking at on that would be, of course, you got to buy something that's undervalued. An investor that I've worked with, we've probably flipped, let's say, about 40 homes, something like that, with this one individual. And he came to me wanting to get out of the corporate world and wanted to get involved with real estate. And he wanted to parlay that into maybe being a remodeler and then maybe eventually being a home builder himself. So we started, I wrote a little business plan for him, first of all, and with that business plan, the idea that we had, that I had actually, that I want to implement, was to find properties that were as trashed as possible. um, just if it had structural problems, great. If it had tons of mold, great. And probably some of you are cringing as I say that. But why would we want all that? Anybody have any feedback on that? It's
Because our average buyers cannot finance them, right?
that is a
The
big,
cash.
correct. That's a big factor. So whoever that was, kudos to you. The less competition you have, then the higher probability for a nice profit. So you're exactly right on target. If you've got really bad problems like that, you generally can't get financing. So this fella's father-in-law happens to be my neighbor. He lives 2 doors over from me. And he's actually a commercial developer. He builds office parks and corporate headquarters and stuff like that. So Dave put a $500,000 equity line of credit against his home, and then offered his son-in-law to be able to tap that for purchasing properties. And then also when the properties were purchased, then to have money to rehab them. So cash buyer there. What was in it for Dave was that whatever his lender, for the equity line, was charged him, then he put a couple of points on top of that to make a little float off of the money he was loaning to make it worth his while to do it. And then, of course, for my motivation was I get 2 sales out of each home. If you think about it, get a little commission off the wholesale purchase of the property. And then once the rehab's completed, then I get a commission off the retail end product. So that was what was in it for me. And then the gentleman that wanted to get out of the corporate world and get into investing and then remodeling and hopefully be a builder at some point. And he's close to that phase now. We're actually looking for some land for him to develop with father-in-law as we speak. And if we can find some land, then he would do his first builds there. But what was in it for him, of course, is the money of what he bought it for, plus his expenses. Then what he sold it for, minus those expenses, would be his profit. And then he paid his father-in-law, again, whatever the interest float was, that was their agreement on that. So in that format, the less competition, the better. So not only do you eliminate people because you need to be a cash buyer for that situation, but also even cash buyers might be afraid of structural issues or mold. So now you eliminate that competition as well. And able to buy properties way undervalued. The first few with this fella, I took him through items, what to do as far as what to repair and fix, what not to do. So when you get into things like that, basically you're trying to take this property that's got problems and eliminate those objections. So if there's structural issues, you obviously got to repair them and have it done where a structural engineer would sign off on it, that it's done appropriately, and then warranty it. If a structural engineer stamps a letter, puts their stamp on it, that's like a warranty, if you will, that can be legally binding to them. So then if you go to sell the property in the future, you've got that to show a potential buyer. Hey, we had a problem. It's been taken care of. Here's the letter from the engineer stamped with his approval of the work that was done. So you've got to overcome any of the basic major issues with the home to overcome those objections. Then from there, if there's other stuff that's broken, you might as well fix it, because most likely they're going to have an inspection and it's going to come up on an inspection. So just get ahead of that. And then from there, use current colors. A way to determine a color scheme, if you're not familiar, and most of us active agents, you see the color schemes that are used in current properties and color schemes that are used in new construction. Those are more trends, if you will, that you want to follow. So you're hitting what the marketplace is wanting or desiring. And a good way to find that out is you can call a paint store, as an example, if you're picking a paint color, and ask them, what's your most popular. Agreeable gray at Sherwin-Williams was the most popular color for a long time. I'm not sure if it's still number one or not, but that is a great color scheme to go with, been very popular. And think about floor coverings in the same mode. Go to a big supplier. What's your most popular color scheme of whatever floor covering you want to put down, whether it be carpets or tiles, or there's a lot of luxury vinyl planks that are out there, LVPs, that are very popular right now. So if you take care of the issues, you get it in a current color scheme. So it's a light, bright, open airy, and clean, crisp, no deferred maintenance. Now you've taken maybe the ugly duckling of the block and turned it into the shining diamond, and hence can make a nice profit on that. And of course, before you buy, you always want to check and see what the retail market is from your comps, and you can use auto valuation models for that as well too. Go online to like realtor.com or Redfin, Zillow, places like that. Also in our tax records, you have CoreLogic that all provide auto valuation models to kind of get an idea of what the properties that have been rehabbed in the area are worth currently. And then you look at what you can buy it for, run a budget of what you think it'll take you to fix it. You can talk to contractors for that. And then you got to make sure you've got the return on investment that makes it worthwhile, that ROI factor that I mentioned to you by plugging in those figures. So that's kind of a buy and flip scenario. Any questions related to that?
Were you guys targeting different market price? I'm sure there's got to be some people say under 300, whatever, under 500, anything over that would be very difficult to flip, or maybe for rental for that purposes.
I've seen it done at all different price points. With that particular client, we were trying to stay in stuff in the 200 to 400 range, something like that. But there's it's just kind of keeping an opportunity. A house, Dave's my neighbor to the right that I just mentioned to you, but a house 2 doors to the left of me. The fellow was a developer of shopping centers, and he bought the home. I think it was for $2.1 million. Oh shoot, this is back probably say 15 years ago, something like that. Maybe 18 years ago. No, I think about that. No, it had to be 18 years ago, maybe close to 20 years ago. He bought that property for $2.1 million. Well, then when the crash came in 07, 8, 9, those years, and nobody was developing or building anything, and he had shopping centers under development, and he had other land that he had purchased to build future shopping centers, and basically lost everything, including his home over there. And apparently it hadn't been that well taken care of. And then in addition to that, on the way out, they had stripped it. They took the gates, as you enter on the driveway, as an example, fixtures, appliances, and basically stripped the property to take what they could from it. So now you've got kind of a hollowed home, if you will. And an investor bought that and bought out of foreclosure, basically. And I was shocked saw the number, I was going, darn, I wish I had seen that. But they bought it. It was 800 and some $1,000. And then they put, excuse me, I would figure probably 150, $200,000 in it, and then sold it for 1.5 million, which was still a bargain versus on the original purchase price of 2.1. And made a couple $100,000. So that was a fairly high end one that again, just the numbers made sense. So I wouldn't say that it's a particular price point, other than that could be limited on an individual's finances too, and the resources they have available to them. For Jonathan, this fellow that I've done about 40 with, his $500,000 equity line was kind of his limitation. He had some personal net worth as well too, but not a significant amount. So we couldn't have taken on, or Jonathan couldn't have taken on a project like my neighbor's 2 doors over when he's got a $500,000 equity line to work under. So I think that would define it.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Holly.
Michelle.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
my
you.
question was that what is his return on investment that he's looking for on a flip?
He doesn't have a firm number. Obviously the higher the better. But he's never shared with me the low end of it. It's just he does his deciphering behind the scenes there. I introduce him to a property, and I think then give him the numbers of what I see, and I think it's a good opportunity. But I'd never been with him or his father-in-law when they've run the numbers on it. So that's a good question. I don't honestly know, but think of it this way, I guess, is kind of the way I would look at that if I'm doing it myself. You can make, 5-10%, in that realm, generally with a fairly passive investment. You know what I mean?
In the stock market.
Yeah, you could put money in the stock
Or why would
market,
you do it? Yeah.
various things like that. So it's got to be a number, because not only are you using your same money that you might put in a passive investment, but now you've got some time commitment as well. So, it's got to be up, I would say a very, very minimum of 15%, and, generally, I think, quite a bit higher than that for most people to do that type of a scenario, because there's risk involved too with a flip. And when you do it, if you do it in less than a year's time frame, it's an ordinary income tax as well too. So you got to think about that. And so whatever I make, think about, I'm looking for an after tax return on investment as well too.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you. I have a question. I actually am working with an investor, and it's his first time too, and I'm a newer agent. So I'm trying to also help him through the process. So he's looking at a property, and do you think location, in terms of this one's like right near a traffic light on kind of a busy road, plays a factor, or not?
Oh, it definitely plays a factor for sure. So anytime you've got a natural deterrent to a property, I don't care what it is, busy road, steep driveway, power lines, anything you can't change, then just imagine this. If you had basically and I'm just going to assume you're talking about a house here. And this just happens when you deal with any listing as well, just a, Jane or John Doe, not necessarily an investor. And if I come across something like that, whether I'm on the selling side or the buying side, it always comes into play. And here's what I say to people. So here's this house, and it's got this natural deterrent, let's say busy road and a stoplight there. Why would the stoplight be a factor? Just out of curiosity, if anybody answers that. Versus just being on a busy road versus being on a busy road at a stoplight.
To get in and out of the driveway?
I don't see that tremendously. I guess I haven't seen your situation personally there to know if that would be a huge factor. It could be, but what I'm looking for in that response, think about this. If I'm on a busy road in the middle, away from a stop sign or a traffic light, they're just cruising along. when's your car or truck the loudest? When you accelerate. So when
Mhm.
people stop at a stoplight or a stop sign, then they're accelerating and your home's right there, you get the loudest of the vehicles. That makes sense?
Mhm.
So just more than just cruising down a busy road. So just a small factor on that. But what I say to people is imagine you've got this, again, this property and this natural deterrent to it. Imagine this same home on a nice quiet cul-de-sac, no through traffic, perfect setting. If both of them are the same price, which one are you going to buy?
Right.
The one, the quiet, perfect setting, right? Not the one that has a natural deterrence. So if I can buy the one with the natural deterrence significantly lower, to now I'm looking at, well, geez, in that price range, I'll never get a house like this, but I can get this house because I'm willing to put up with the steep driveway or whatever it happens to be, the power lines, et cetera. So just as long as you think of that as a viable alternative, and then again, run those numbers accordingly there
Okay, thank you.
on that. Any other questions about the buying and flipping type scenario?
Yeah,
Don,
so,
do you have,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
do you have people who flip and then maybe rent for a year or something to try to get to long-term capital gains? Does anybody use that as a strategy?
I think that's a great strategy to do because it's a significant less tax liability there if you sell it later. So so yes, that's something that somebody could do. The only issue with that is that it depends again on the scenario. Like let's talk about the mold, structural issues one. I can't really have anybody live in that until I do the work, right? And then
Well, I was
once,
thinking do the work and then either
well,
lease option or lease and then sell.
yeah,
But it's not perfectly perfect if you let somebody lease it for a year.
yeah,
But that savings might make it worthwhile.
yeah. The only risk to that, if you really get it jammed up, and it's polished up, shined up, new floorings, new paint, then is there any damage caused? You got to get back in and do something. So that may offset part of your gain on the lower tax rate of a capital gain tax versus a personal income tax. But definitely a strategy that I look at. I love your thinking's right along the right vein on that. And especially I'd be more inclined to do that with them interested in a lease purchase type scenario. I definitely would do that in a lease purchase scenario versus an option purchase scenario, because the lease purchase, if they don't follow through, there's going to be damages that they're going to lose, non-refundable earnest money they put up, structuring it like that. Versus an option, and there could be some damage, wear and tear. I got to go back in and fix up on that. But that's a great thought. Love it. Somebody else had another question.
Yes. So I was asking, it sounds like you don't go over the numbers with them on the return on investment. Or
Well,
that
I kind of provide them numbers, such as, hey, I think we can get it here. And here's my supporting information of why I think we can buy it here. I think we can sell it here. And here's my supporting data for that. And I think that it would take about this in order to accomplish, getting it from A to Z, if you will. So I'll give them data to put into the formula, but I've never been part of with Jonathan anyway, that particular fella, with him and his father-in-law actually going through the formula and what's the rate of return that they were looking for to say yes or no to it. That I don't know with them in particular. Other folks, I have worked the numbers with them as well too, to help them decide. And generally, if I'm working with somebody in a repeat basis with that, I might do it the first couple of times with them, to help them get it down, and then they'd go from there. With Jonathan as well, the first couple of homes that he flipped, oh boy, I was so hands-on with helping him with the budget and helping him with color selections and appliance selections and various things, and getting him to various contractors that could help solve an issue that was present in that particular property. But after the first couple, I mean, he just takes it and flies with it now. And he's never lost, even come close to losing a dime on any of them. He's made hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that. Maybe in the probably in the seven figures now of what he's made doing it. Any other questions in that realm? Let's take that one step further, because I would presume that most of you aren't working with investors as much as you work with just Jane and John Doe buyers. Generally a correct statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very few agents, just solely work with investors. We have general brokerage businesses, and therefore we do general brokerage. So let's kind of take that same thought to your general business. Let's paint a picture with a little broader brush here. So a buy and flip strategy in your general brokerage business, can you think of any great candidates for that? What would be their situation, their age brackets, et cetera, of people that may really be a great strategy for to increase their net worth? Anybody got any thoughts on that? Anybody see where I'm going with this?
Maybe, hi, maybe people that need to downsize. Been there a long time, and maybe they need to downsize, fix it up.
Well, yes, you're in the right age bracket. So let's start with that one. So let's say that you've raised your kids, they're grown and gone. All right. But maybe you didn't have that big a house in the first place. So that's certainly fine. So I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as a downsize, but what I would categorize it as is somebody that hasn't reached the net worth they'd really like to have at that particular point and want to gain net worth pretty risk-free. So let's say that they're in their 50s or 60s, something like that. And the reason I say after kids is that I don't think, at least my own personal philosophy is that I want to give stability to my kids. Just being raised by me ruined them enough. I don't want to have to move them, on top of that. So I'd like to have stability for my kids, having same schools and same friends and so forth. But let's say we got an empty nester and they're not where they want to be financially at that point. They've got a little bit of money, but really not prepped for retirement. So how about they start with their own home that they live in at that particular point. They've lived in it. And for people that don't know the general information on this, from a tax standpoint, if you live in a home 2 of the previous 5 years as an owner occupant and you sell it and you're a single individual, you can take up to $250,000 tax-free out of the property. You have no income tax, no federal tax, no state tax. If you're a married couple, up to $500,000 you can take. So if they've lived in a home and raised a family there, hypothetically, the kids are grown and gone, and you probably don't want to do this the day they move out, because if they're off to college and stuff, who knows, they may come back if you let them, whether that's summer times or if it's when school's out, they're trying to get settled in their career and what they're going to do and interviewing and stuff like that. Lots of kids come back home from that. So once you're comfortable that you can do this and move forward and basically look at your own home as a flip. If you've been there a while, maybe got some wear and tear, maybe outdated color schemes, things along that lines. if you think about when you grow up, and you're living with your mom and dad, you're a kid, and you go to grandma's house, it generally has a different feel to it, different tastes, if you will. And so like I'm 61 years old. So if you came to my house, then I more grew up with the taupes and the beiges and the whites and stuff like that. You go to my kids' age homes, generally you'll see more of the grays, the whites, the blacks, monochromatic, a little more modern, is popular now as well too. So that's what I mean. If they've been in it for a while, then maybe they need to get it current. And also you want to play to your target market. So if I've got a big family home and I want to sell it, like we're talking about, I'm in my 50s and 60s and I want to turnkey it, don't turnkey it to your taste and what you like and what you know and what you had. Turnkey it to who your target market's going to be. I mean, what 56-year-old wants to, buy a 5-bedroom house with a full finished basement, pool in the backyard, master on the second floor, generally speaking, right? So who's going to be the target market for that is going to be younger people that are starting off with a family, already have some kids. So you got to think about what do they like, and then turn your house into that, and then get top retail dollar for it. And when you get that top retail dollar for it, now it gives you some cash to move forward. So when you move out of that home, what are you looking for? I tell people, look for something that you can live in. You're okay with it, but it needs work. And if you live in it for 2 years, while you're living in it, fix it up. Now you went from maybe the ugly duckling. It doesn't have to be, as bad as structural problems and mold and stuff like that. Especially the mold, you can't live in until you get that remedied. But you certainly can start with that and, live where you're at currently and get rid of the mold. And then, maybe it needs work from there. You could live in it, but live in it for 2 years while you fix it up. And then once you got the shining diamond, get that top retail dollar for it and tax free. So you make 100 grand, that's 100 grand in your bank account. And if you imagine just doing that every 2-3 years, just hypothetically over a 10-year period, imagine what your net worth is going to change to over a period of time, especially because there's no tax responsibility associated with it. Isn't that neat to think of? So on that same note, anybody have an idea of another great candidate for that?
Hey, John, this is Regina. I raised my hand, and this is a little off topic, but I missed the first 10 minutes, so I apologize if I'm asking you to repeat. But years ago, I was a member of Georgia RIA, and there are multiple other groups. And some of what their suggestions, I don't think really benefited an agent, like keeping a security deposit in a lawyer's desk drawer so they could make multiple offers with one deposit. But how do you screen your investors?
How do I screen them?
Like how do you decide? What is it that you decide it's worth working with this person, especially if they're new?
Yes. So basically, we started this in the very beginning of, you got to find out with any investor, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? So
I can listen to the replay. I don't want to ask you to repeat.
No, that's okay. So
thank you.
First question from there. And then if you are comfortable in that arena and want to work with them, then you're good there. Then the second thing is, you've got to know that they can qualify to purchase what they're trying to accomplish and have the funds to do it. So what's their end game? What's their goal? And are you comfortable working within that arena? Do you have the knowledge to guide them to good decisions and stuff? And then again, do they have just like working with any buyer? Then do they have the capability to do it? Whatever it is they want. They're just looking for a rental property. What price range can they qualify for that? Or if they're looking to buy and flip, what's their capabilities there? And especially if they get into very, very troubled properties that can't be financed, do they have the cash for it? So
Okay.
Those would be the things I'd be looking for there.
And do you recommend an agent join something like Georgia Rio or one of the offshoots of that?
I've never joined anything like that myself personally.
Okay.
So that would be up to each individual to seek out and decide if it's something that's valuable to them and worthwhile to them or not.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So back to that topic we were on, guys. We talked about, a great target market for folks would be folks that empty nesters, but not where they want to be with their net worth. So a way to play catch up, and a pretty nice way to go about that. But can you guys think of another target market that would be a great candidate for that same type of scenario?
John, I have clients who are first-time home buyers. They happen to have a lot of cash, but when they're looking at something that is cute the way they want it, they're getting outbid, et cetera. And I'm trying to convince them that they need to create their own value. They don't have kids yet. They don't have that inconvenience of like, they've got to have a, perfect house for those kids or the perfect school district or whatever. And, they could live in something. And, I was trying to tell the mom, who's my friend, and she said, well, there's, it's just so hard to get people to, contractors. And it's like, yes, but they could live with it, not perfect, because they're young and get it perfect later. Like that, I really think that for people who are trying to buy and can't buy, like if you don't have 3 kids that, you're trying to deal with, you need to create your own value.
That's the lead that I was looking for right there. It's first time home buyers or young buyers that don't have kids yet, or any buyer that doesn't plan on having kids for any time period, maybe, or for the next few years. Again, and if you had children, even up to school age, that's just my own personal philosophy. And people can do it when they've got kids as well too, but that's just not my philosophy to move them around, because you're talking about moving, every couple of years in this scenario. But so let's hit on the first time home buyers or the young people. They're just getting started in life. They're trying to develop net worth and equity, right? So in that scenario, if I have and I'll just give you an example of one right now. It's a referral of a buddy of mine's son, and then it's the son's friend, and he's 24 years old, and he's interested in buying his first home there. So in doing that, I said to him, I said, well, what do you think life's going to look like here for you for a few years? Are you dating anybody seriously? Planning on getting married? You really got to research and think about, where they're at in life, and kind of, help be the wisdom to guide them. So for instance, the married question, I've heard over and over my 38-year career selling real estate. Somebody's got a house, and then they find somebody else, and then that somebody, they move in together. Well, whoever's house they moved into, that's that person's house. They want an our house. So if you're a single person and buying something, then if you are hoping to get in a significant relationship or marriage or whatever with somebody, then if that happens, then often you're going to be looking for another place. So maybe not as long-term as you think. So with this particular fella, I said, and this is just the current market. So I'll kind of give you an idea how my mind plays out. We got to think about trends as well too, as agents, and guiding our clientele. So with him, I said, again, what's your goals? And he said, I just want to find a place to crash, lay my head down, and hadn't really thought too much deeper than that. And a single guy, and he may have a roommate coming in. So if we're looking for a floor plan, you may want to keep that in mind. It can't be probably the smallest of small secondary bedrooms or third bedrooms, just at least a halfway decent size and access to bathroom and such like that. So that was a pretty basic part of the conversation. But then digging deeper, I said to him, well, have you thought about any long-term goals and financially? And he said, well, what do you mean? So I said, well, you're 24 years old. Nobody expects you to have this, beautiful dream home, type scenario. You're just getting started in life. So what about trying to find something that needs some work? And again, for him, live in it for 2 years at least, qualify as an owner occupant, and then, dress it up over that 2 years and have a nice profit out the back end. So that was one option. Another option would be potentially a buy and flip for somebody along that lines as well too. And again, if you live in it for the 2 years, that's maybe more of a trash property, depending on how livable you need, especially if he's going to have to roommates, it's going to be probably more livable than that one that might be a total buy and flip scenario. But something else to think about in my personal opinion. So we're all pretty much hearing and already seen to a certain extent the rising interest rate scenario, right? So different points of my career as markets dictated, I have advised clients differently according to the market. So my general advice to a young buyer, don't get married to your mortgage. You want to live a life, don't stress about it. Don't stretch yourself to buy something that isn't worth it. It's a house, it's something over your head, but you got to live a life too, and don't want to be too stressed, too overwhelmed. So that would be a general advice. But in this particular scenario, where we are in the market, I might tell my clients to buy everything you can afford right now, so that maybe you can stay in it much longer than you might otherwise expect to. Because if interest rates rise significantly, for you to move to another place and replace the lifestyle that you just bought, in that scenario, it's going to excuse me, just had a call come in. If you can take advantage of these interest rates and lock them in for a long time. So in that case, I may buy something you really like, you're really comfortable, and you can really hold on to for a long time and take advantage of locking in these low interest rates. And that can be really anybody in any age bracket right now, to maybe stretch, especially if it's a young family. If you can really stretch yourself so you don't have to buy something, 5, 6, 7 years from now, which tends to be about the national average of when people move, top yourself out, buy a place you can be comfortable in longer term, lock in that lower interest rate, and then maybe give your kids the stability of the same school and same friends and such like that. So food for thought on that. But I'm talking back to this young individual, that was another option for him, but then caution him again that if you find somebody, then they may not want to move into your place, they may want an hour house on that. But another angle, just in your ordinary general brokerage businesses there, from somebody that's, empty nesters towards retirement age, but falling short of where they want to be, or somebody younger, pre-kids, that you can help them escalate their own net worth through strategizing of what type of goals they want to accomplish. That's always, I think, the first question, whether it's just a general purchase or sale of a property, or you're working with investors. Any questions along that lines? No? Okay, very good. One other thing to tag off of that then is on this flip side, I myself, I've been very blessed to have a contractor that's worked with me about 28 years now. And so an added value service that I offer my clients when they sell is fixing the property up as if it were a flip for them. And I know some agents do that, and some agents charge a contracting fee to do it. You can make a decision on that or not, depending on how big the project might be. But when I'm called on a listing scenario to list somebody's home, whenever I go into them, I look at it as if it's my asset. So what could I do to maximize the return on investment of this property? And then offer that to them and suggest that to them. And depending on their circumstances, they may or may not be on board with that. But I'll just run you through one scenario on this. A woman named Whitney lost her husband to cancer. They had a 10-year-old son, and were not financially flush by any means. When he had met her, he had a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Southwest Cobb, not a great area of town there, this particular neighborhood. It was a 1-car garage drive under with a partial basement. Not a fancy home or anything like that. And when she had dated, the relationship escalated, and she moved in with him to that home. And then the relationship escalated to marriage, and then typical, she wanted our home. Now they're going to get married. So they bought a home out in Dallas, Georgia, and they rented the other one out. Well, it's been a rental property for about 10 years now, and there was a family of 5 people living in that home, plus grandma living down in the partial basement area. So they've been there 10 years, great relationship with the landlord and tenants. They paid on time, stuff like that, no drama per se. So a really nice relationship. Well, I got the call from this woman's name's Whitney to list the property. It was a couple of years ago, and it was late October, let's say October 28th, hypothetically. And she had been referred to me by another woman that's known me for a couple decades and done real estate work with me. It was her sister-in-law had referred me to Whitney. So it was this woman's brother that had passed away. So we're talking on the phone and answers any questions she has and such like that. And I offered to meet her, but she said, I don't really think that we need to per se. You come highly recommended. And, I trust you to do what you need to do. And so she set up an appointment for me to go out to the house to list it. And she had set up with the tenants, and I have my sign and my lockbox and all my paperwork. And I figured this, I'll just photograph this one myself. It didn't need to be too fancy. Well, I get out there, walk through the house. Tenants really, really nice and such. And it's pretty trashed. I mean, paint, floor coverings, various things need to be fixed. The yard need to be cleaned up, stuff like that to get top dollar. So again, this woman hadn't even met me yet. I call her up, say, hey, I'm out at the home, and I'm happy to do whatever you tell me to do. You're the boss. But if this were my asset, I would not list it today. How many agents are going out to a listing and going to say, I wouldn't do it. Not too many. Most people are like, yeah, just sign right here. I got you, So she said, well, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I pulled up comps on it. And there was a home that sold in similar condition at the same time. It was a pretty trashed house. It sold for 118. So that maybe we listed at 125 and maybe we settle 120, 122, something like that. But I also said that there was a home that had been refurbished in the neighborhood that had sold for 145. So this is similar you do for a flip type client as well, too, right? When you're evaluating it. And but you can again take this to your everyday business. You can be the hero in that situation. So that one that sold for 145, I thought, well, maybe we list it for 150. I'm a big believer in listing on price thresholds. If you listed at 152, hypothetically, now somebody's going to be searching probably up to 175 or 200, and much more competition there than listing hypothetically at 150, and then maybe get multiple offers and bid up. So she said, well, how much will it take me to refurbish what you're talking about? I said, I'm thinking about $12,000 in round figures, something like that. She said, oh my God, John, that's almost all the money I've got. I've got maybe 18 or 20,000. And, I got a kid to take care of here, just nervous as could be about it. Again, she's never even met me face to face. We're talking on the phone. And so I said, well, I'll list this if you want me to, but I think you're leaving a lot of money on the table that can be had. And I think we could get this turnkeyed rather quickly for you and put the additional money in your pocket. So she said, well, let me chew on that a bit. And apparently she talked to both the in-law sisters, the deceased husband's 2 sisters, and the one knew me well and said, John tells you to do something, just trust him. You can trust him wholeheartedly. He won't lead you wrong. So she called me back. She says, well, I'm scared to death, but I'm going to trust you and let's go forward with this. So I said, all right, well, if you don't mind, I don't want to do it right now. Okay, what are you thinking? Well, now it's, early November. So I said, you got a great relationship with the tenants. Why don't you let them stay till the end of January? They can stay through the holidays, give them plenty of time to find a place. You got a great relationship and they're going to be thrilled about that. We'll get through generally a little slower time of the market historically, not so much the last few years, but historically a little slower that time of year. And I said, then if they're out January 31st, I'll have the crew on it February 1st. It'll probably take us about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks max to turnkey the property for you. And then this particular contractor said he'll just get paid out of closing. He was willing to do that as well, too, to not stretch her budget. So we executed that plan, put it on the market. We listed it at 150. I had 8 offers and we sold and closed it at 168. And we spent it was just under $13,000. So, where I was thinking she might get 20 out of it. So let's say that she put 13 into it. So now she should get 133. Well, she got 168. She was literally crying on my shoulder at closing, just thanking me because she needed the money bad. So it didn't take me much work. I just walked at the property with my contractor. He put his proposal together, and then he executed on our plan on that. So you can work a flipping client like that. You can work Jane and John Doe clients the same way with that. So hopefully a piece of information that might be more appropriate for your general brokerage as well as your investor clients there. We hadn't, and I'm looking at the time here, we're almost at noon, but the other big thing that you want to look at for investors is buy and hold strategies, where they buy a property and hold it. And I happen to have 14 properties, and I've owned those 14 properties, 13 of them for 33 years. And I just happened to have bought a 14th one because it was on the same street. So what I was looking for and what I direct my clients to look for there is be rather close to where you live, because then easy to fix, easy to manage, easy to show for tenants, etc. If you're going to buy multiple properties kind of in the same general area, again, ease for management. You don't want to buy something in Douglasville, then buy something in Stone Mountain and buy something up in Forsyth County, and you're all over the damn place and a long way from your home as you try and go show a tenant. And then they decide that it wasn't for them. They don't bother calling you and stand you up and you're pissed, those types of things. So I think that's important. And then I'm looking for low maintenance. So those 13, I happen to have been introduced to a builder building them, and they're all brick. And so low maintenance. He was having health issues and wanted to finish up the subdivision. So I said to him, well, I'll buy out the rest of the subdivision. You finish them up, and I want economies of scale. I want a discount on what you're selling them retail for, and got that. So for me, I was 28 years old at the time, and so working for ourselves, I've always invested in my SEP IRA account, maxed that out every year. So I built up a pretty nice portfolio there. But it was also part of my plan. I figured, well, after 30 years, I originally financed them on a 30-year mortgage, then they'd be paid off and I'd be cash flowing. So I've got about $250,000 a year coming in, and I call mailbox money, because basically I go to the mailbox and there's the checks, the first of the month. And occasionally I've got to go do stuff with them, but pretty rare. If you manage property yourself rather than a management company, and you treat your clients with dignity and respect like you do any other client, and when they need you, your deal is to provide a roof over their head. And if something breaks, get your butt over there and fix it. The sooner the better. And if you do it yourself, then that really shows respect, and you really develop a relationship that you're holding up your end of the bargain. And if you're a face to the property and you provide them good service and take care of them like you should as a client, then it's really hard to take advantage of you. I mean, they really got to be some nasty people, and hopefully on your screening up front, you'll not rent to people like that, you know. But that's kind of what I'm looking for in that arena. But any questions on that? I didn't realize I was a couple minutes late too with my technical difficulties, but what questions might you have about that?
I have a question.
Yes.
How did you find a good maintenance person to help you with things that break down?
Well, I am that person myself. I bought my first home at 18 years old without my parents' knowledge, and I sold my car to get the down payment. So I was broke, and I didn't, something went wrong. I didn't have the funds to go higher, so I had to figure it out. And that was well before YouTube. I bought my first home. I was like in 1980, 1979, late 79, early 1980, when I bought my first place. And so I guess I was late 18, maybe early 19 years old at that point. But I was putting myself through college. I didn't have any financial. I moved out of my parents' house a week after high school, and actually moved to a different state to work construction on a team that my older brother was working his way. He ended up being a doctor, an ER doctor, but working construction, working his way through school, and he got me on that crew. And so now I wanted to go to college in the fall, and one of my biggest expenses was going to be putting a roof over my head. I had to pay tuition, books, and so I bought a home in the quote student ghetto, if you will, behind campus, an old house built in 1932, but it had 5 bedrooms. So I leased out 4 rooms, and when I got those rents in, they paid my mortgage, so I lived for free. So then I figured if I didn't live here, I'd have a 5th income. So I bought a house down the street, leased that one out, had a positive income, cash flow, and I bought a duplex around the corner. So by the time I was 21, I had 2 homes and a duplex. And then that gave me, this was up in Michigan where I went to college. And then after I graduated college, one of the guys that rented from me, he moved to Atlanta, and I came down to visit him and fell in love. And then that gave me some seed money to come get started here in Atlanta by selling those properties. So I had to learn how to fix stuff up, but YouTube is a great source to fix about anything. My current home, I have a pool and waterfalls and stuff in my backyard, and I had a pump go out. Well, I'd never dealt with that. And I've been in my home almost 20 years now. And so stuff I've not run across myself. And if I've got time to do it, then I'll YouTube something if I've never done it before. So I YouTubed how to replace a pool pump, and I got the name of the manufacturer and the model off of the pump, and then went online and ordered the pump, and then looked at a YouTube video on how to install it. So you can do a lot of that. Again, it not only saves, not what you make, it's what you keep, right? So if you're making rent, you get all kinds of expenses of management and hiring everything out to have it all done, then your return on investment is going to be dwindled. So if you can manage them yourselves, and do the work yourselves, not only does it save you money, but it really, really pays off big time with the relationship with your resident. It's kind of comical. I drive a Porsche Panamera, and I've got a toolkit in the trunk, and I'll have some slacks on, a shirt for business or whatever. And my tenant will call me, "Oh, John, I'm having a problem with the toilet's broken," or, this or that or whatever. And I'll show up in my Porsche and come in halfway dressed, nice, and get my toolkit out of the back. My old tenants know, but my new tenants laugh, okay, you're the plumber, you're coming over. Yeah, I'm coming. And you just called me a few hours ago and I'm here, So that goes a long way to show them that you really want to fulfill your end of the bargain. And then that makes them, want to fulfill their end of the bargain for you as well.
Okay, and would you share your contract? So this is for me personally, because I plan on purchasing a home by the end of this year. Would you share your contract information with us or with me?
He won't work for anybody else. He's been with me 28 years, and he's 82 years old now.
Oh, wow. That makes sense.
So he hadn't had to work forever. He's got plenty of money, but he likes staying active and busy, and we just have such a routine down that he knows it's all systematic and how we go about doing things, and so he won't work for anybody else. And
You know of any other good contractors?
I really don't, because I haven't had to shop for one, thank goodness.
Okay.
For
We
that.
got some
But
contacts though
there
through
are
our office.
Yeah, there are sources through our office. We have affiliated business relationships with contractors there, and I think that's on the intranet. Isn't it, Jill? Is that right?
Yes, get on the preferred vendors list. And then when you don't find somebody that works for you, you can always go on the KW Facebook page and you'll have people recommend someone.
There you go. Great suggestions there. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? That time flew by, and I could get a lot more I could say, but might help you with the investment side of stuff. But any other particular questions or issues somebody's dealing with that I might be able to give you some perspective on?
Thanks, John.
Okay, guys. I guess we'll.
Thank you.
All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Y'all take care.
That was
Best of luck.
great.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.